The Books That Shaped Me is proudly sponsored by WinStar Insurance Group, right out of Cedar Park, Texas. Owned and operated by Stephanie Dew, my dear friend. Early on in her career, she knew what it was like to feel undervalued. And she vowed that if she ever had an opportunity to be in leadership, she was going to do it different. And she does. She values each of her employees and her clients with the utmost integrity and respect and kindness that you'd ever imagine. So they've got a specialty in their business. They take care of first responders. They've got wineries, breweries, childcare facilities, and the employees themselves are so excited to be there. And they talk about how they haven't felt valued anywhere else like they do there. So it's hats off to Stephanie and WinStar Insurance Group because our values align with faith, trust, and authenticity. Thank you, Stephanie, from the bottom of my heart and those of us that hang out with the books that shaped me. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to the Books That Shaped Me. We are episode 5, and I'm sitting here with the handsome and lovely Brandon Glaser. Super excited to have a conversation, do a bit of a deep dive here to who you are, some of those books that have shaped you, whatever insights that might be on your heart that you want to share with the world. But just as a bit of a quick recap, Brandon and I have known each other for a little over a year, I'd say.
Yeah.
You were still at the Higher Education Coordinating Board. I was wearing my Luna Data Solutions hat. We were trying to see if there was a way for us to do some business together. But really, as we were under that business conversation, it kind of quickly went personal, where I just started sharing who I am as a person, some of the things that are important to me as far as values, integrity, and just being fully upfront with what's going on in my life. And you very quickly met me right where I was at. And I feel like we kind of formed a friendship in that moment.
Absolutely did. I think our connection and that vulnerability that we kind of shared together kind of broke down some of those barriers. And like you said, it quickly went from business to personal. It's an honor to be here. First off, I think this is amazing. I love to see this journey that you're on. And that's kind of been part of like the relationship and friendship that we've made together, is sharing in similar journeys and some of the adversities that life has thrown our way. So I feel honored to be a part of this, and I'm really excited to be doing it.
Well, thank you, Brandon.
Yeah.
I think it's a beautiful thing. One of the things that I believe and subscribe to is we're all made on purpose for a purpose.
Absolutely.
We each have, these giftings and these skill sets that are in our hearts that we can use in our professional life. But really, when we can merge our professional and our personal and be that fully authentic self, I feel like we are a blessing in all capacities.
I couldn't agree more. I think, some of the things that are on my mind that, I'll talk about are really just about people and how knowing people or getting to know people can translate in any industry, not just, I'm in tech. It really can transpire across any industry, and the root of who I am, what I do, where I've gotten has always been people and understanding everybody's got their own journey. And, day in, day out, you never know what somebody else is going through. And I think having that type of empathy is key, not just in business, but in life.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah.
Well said. Because like you said, we show up every day. We're putting on that brave face. We've got to pay the bills and do the thing. But we have a whole slew of stuff happening that maybe not everybody's seeing when we show up in a workspace. But empathy is the name of the game. And I've heard it said that some of the most powerful words in the English language are me too.
Yeah. Kind of like I said, you never know what somebody else is going through. I think part of my journey through life and some of the challenges that I've faced is learning to open up from like a healing perspective, but you never know. Like that's how our connection was made. It went from a business chat over, some business deals, and now here we are talking about life and the things that we've been through and sharing stories. And it's really therapeutic.
Yeah.
And I think it's good, not just to make connections, but from a personal standpoint, how you navigate your life and the things that are thrown your way, whether you plan on it or it just comes out of left field, because there's a whole lot of that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. You're right. You're right. And what matters, right? What's going to matter at the end of the day, the legacy we leave behind, the integrity that we show up with, because people are watching, whether it's our kids, our coworkers, our friends, how we do life. When the curveballs hit, what are we going to do about that?
Yes. Yeah. There's a whole lot of curveballs, and again, there's that balance between professional and personal life. I know I try and keep them separate, but that doesn't mean that you don't have things going on that are going to impact your work, or work's going to impact your home life. And like you said, there are kids, your kids, my
Yes.
kids, everybody watching.
Yeah.
And I think how we face certain things really says a lot about us as a person.
Yeah.
But then again, really shapes the relationships that we make. I think having those vulnerable moments and breaking down barriers really creates the best, most authentic relationships.
That's right. Sets the tone.
Sets the tone.
Well, sir, I see you've got some
I
paperwork.
did some homework.
I'm ready. I am ready. I would love to hear, when you were getting ready for this conversation, you put some time, some thought, and I'm ready, sir. I am all ears.
Yeah. So I like to be prepared.
Yeah.
And yeah, I did some homework, and really thought about some of the books that really have shaped me. And I maybe went a little overboard with
Extra. It's
with my
good.
notes
Let's
and
go.
stuff, but sometimes the thoughts just kind of flurry
I'm
away.
here for it.
But a couple of the books that I want to talk about, really, there's like a connecting theme across like what I like to read. I was in the military, so I like to read military leadership type books, and I don't know, self-help type books, because sometimes uh, books, and I think music, have a really good way of maybe connecting thoughts and ideas to reality.
Yeah.
And if you hear a song, you read a book, and you're like, oh wow, like that's my thoughts. I just can't articulate it enough. But yeah, a lot of I kind of compiled like my common themes across some of the books that I have read, talking about leadership as a service. Accountability creates growth. Discomfort builds resilience. That kind of goes back to the vulnerability aspect of being vulnerable with yourself,
Yeah.
your thoughts, your actions, the challenges that we face day to day. Success is developed and not inherited. I think a lot of people have things within them that maybe they don't realize, and maybe a conversation or a connection, or something that happens in life really helps develop the things that you already have within you, and you kind of build upon that. um, and so that's kind of the common themes across some of the books that I'll kind of reference today. And
Yeah, if I can dig in a little bit.
yeah, let's do it.
So I guess resiliency, accountability, authenticity. I guess the question that's coming up for me, because you just shared about your military time.
Yeah.
I feel like there's pressure to produce, perform, be a certain way. And I feel like what I've learned between my life, sharing with you some of your journey, some of that, is that it's not always this nice package. And if I do this, then I'm going to do that, and I'm going to have this success. It's not a clean, linear experience. And I guess I want to hear from you, because you've got some themes of your books.
Yeah.
What did that look like for you? What were some of those moments where you learned early on where you're like, oh man, this did not go? And how am I going to deal with that?
Yeah. Well, one thing I did write down too is, my greatest lessons were adversity, failure, and poor leaders. My own failures as a team. I like to, I'm very observant, and I like to, any environment I'm in, observe, and maybe I'm okay with failing. But I will learn from somebody else's failures,
Yes.
and their successes, and kind of model what I do and how I react to things based on that.
Mhm.
And that's what I take away from some of the books that I've read, but be it in the military, in my professional career, as a parent, as a friend. I'm always seeing what's out there and how people are doing things, and like you said, life is not a linear journey. It's a roller coaster, to say the least. There's going to be highs, there's going to be lows, twists and turns. So
Yeah.
being flexible, and one of my, I guess, like a ode to my military is, I always say Semper Gumby. if you remember Gumby, the little green
Yeah.
flexible guy. So Semper Gumby, always flexible. And I think you can plan and write down notes and do all of the things, but life is going to throw curveballs, and you have to be able to adapt and react. And uh, that's the key to success in my eyes.
Well, I feel like you've internalized it and you're articulating it. Was it modeled for you as a child growing up?
To a degree, I had a really good childhood. I think back and now with my kids, they're at the age where my daughter just graduated 5th grade. And I'm like, wow, I remember 5th grade, and I think back to my childhood, the things that my parents taught me and instilled in me. I try and model that. Um, and there's things that my parents did that maybe I don't want to do. And I think that's something, you take lessons, uh, like I said, people's failures, people's successes, and you model how you do things based on that. So I'd say to a degree, yes, I had kind of a template for life, but then just a tenacity to do and achieve things. I've set goals for myself that I never thought I would achieve, and I've not only achieved them, but superseded those. And then you're like, holy cow! Like at one point that was a goal, and now it's something that's behind me.
Bam.
So it's always like, what's next?
I love that. I feel like what I'm hearing from you is one of your superpowers is observation.
Observation, and empathy.
Wow, I love that. I love that. So you did have some good modeling growing up.
Yes.
You have learned some things. You've lived some times. You are modeling for your family.
Correct.
And what else, sir? I want to know what else.
Yeah. I guess, I'll go with the theme here, the books that shaped me. So, I wrote down a couple of the books that have really been important to me as a person, as a professional, and just in general, things that resonate with me, lessons that I've learned, or, like I said, being observant and maybe trying not to make the mistake by, having the information, the details to, maybe not fail.
Yeah.
And again, failure is okay. Absolutely okay. It's one of the best teachers that we'll ever have. So yeah, I mean, with that, we can jump into some of these books that
Bring it.
Yeah, I'll go with one of the most recent ones that I read, and I actually borrowed it from my boss, my CIO. I saw it sitting on his desk, and every time we'd have meetings, I'd be staring at it, and I was like,
it was sending a beacon at you.
It was sending a beacon, and so finally I was like, "Can I borrow that book?" And that book is called Hidden Potential by Adam Grant. Some of the core themes in this book are, having a growth mindset, and that's been key to me in every aspect of life. Is I want to say I get bored easily, but I don't like stagnation, and I'm always looking for like what's next.
Yeah.
So having a growth mindset is paramount to my success in my career, the adventures that I like to go on in life. Just always looking for that next kind of little thrill or goal.
Yeah.
So this book, I guess like a synopsis is, it challenges the belief that success is primarily driven by natural talent. And like I said, there are people that are naturally good at things, be it leadership or, technical skills or whatever their profession may be. But I think, again, we innately have these abilities and these things within us that maybe we don't realize. And it might take a conversation, a connection, a failure, a success to kind of bring that out from within us. So, success isn't always natural. It takes hard work. It takes grit, determination.
Yep.
You have to be able to accept some of those challenges head on.
If the grit you just said, so there's a body of work by Angela Duckworth who says that they did some research and they said, what's the number one predictor of success? It's not your pedigree. It's not your upbringing. It's grit. Grit is the number one predictor of success.
I love
just
that.
Piggyback right in there with you, sir. I heard you say it and I got to say, yes, I agree.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And in Hidden Potential, it kind of talks about how growth, persistence, and your environment matter so much more than we give credit to sometimes. Because not every environment we're in is going to be conducive to our success.
Yeah.
You know, not everything's going to be laid out nice and easy. There's going to be wrinkles to iron through. And so having that grit, you know, and that determination to power through that, I think it develops the character, you know, within ourselves, but really opens up opportunity for new things.
If I can put you on the spot.
Put me on the spot.
When I put my very vulnerable post out in the world about my new shift in life,
Yeah.
you said the most beautiful, supportive comment. Do you mind recapping how you shared that?
Yeah. And that goes into kind of the environment. You know, I guess you can think about a flower in a garden, and that's kind of the premise for the comment that I said is, you know, a flower in the desert, you know, that's the desert's not the right environment for that flower. The flower is beautiful. It's going to grow. It has the potential, but that environment matters. You know, you put that flower into a beautiful little garden bed and you water it, it's going to grow. It's going to be beautiful
and flourish.
And flourish. It doesn't take away from the beauty of that flower. And that's kind of, you know, what I was getting at with you is don't let your environment dictate, you know, your success. Don't let it tell you you're not good enough, or, you know, that you're not doing enough, because environment matters and your persistence matters. And you, Angie, are very persistent. And that was, you know, one of the things that I love when we put business aside and really just started talking, sharing stories about the adversities that you've been through, those challenges, the hardships, and here we are. You know, you recently faced one, and I know that was a very vulnerable post, so I commend you on that. But you had such an outpouring of support because you're the amazing Angie Smith, and it doesn't matter what's thrown your way. You're going to flourish. You just need the right environment. And now here we are in this awesome studio doing a podcast together.
Telling stories together. Thank you so much. I mean, I like, to your point, you know, I did share because that's who I am. And I do believe that our stories can be shared and help other people as they're navigating through challenges. And that outpouring of support was just so beautiful, like balm on my wounded soul. But your comment specifically did step out. And I just thought the way you articulated it, it was just really inspiring. And then just, like I said, it mended my wounded heart in that moment. And then when I invited you to come have this conversation, you said, I don't have any insights. I said, psh, yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. Well, come share.
Yeah. This is the first podcast I've ever done. So it was kind of one of those, you know, I've got a face for radio, so here I am kind of thing. But, you know, kind of like the theme of some of our conversations is just connection. And like you said, when we sat down, like I've got my notes, like I'll go through some of that stuff, but just a genuine conversation can go a long way. And I don't know, that's just the best way to connect. And so
keeping it real up in here.
Keeping it real.
Keeping it real. All right. What's next on your list, sir?
I guess kind of transitioning into that theme, a book I didn't read this one. I did an audio book.
I got to stop you right there because I'm the queen of audiobooks and I would like to unpack and I would like to wrestle literally with anybody who says listening does not count because we have consumed the data. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I might've been driving. I might've been walking, but I got the story. I got the message.
Yeah. And I think
it counts.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna let me write that down.
Blessed by Angie Smith.
Yes, Angie said this counts.
It counts.
This one I actually listened to twice.
Consumed. We consumed.
Yes, edit that out. I consumed this book, and it's "Think Like a Monk" by Jay Shetty. Have you read this one?
Shetty. No, not the whole thing. I bought it.
Okay.
I listened to his podcast, and I need to continue. Tell me more.
So, "Think Like a Monk." At first, I was like, "Well, I'm not a monk. I don't want to be a monk. So why do I want to think like a monk?" But this book, it's really great. And again, across the themes that we're talking about is challenge, adversity. Again, we can plan and plan and plan, but there's always another plan. And so when we are dealing with all that life can throw at us, it's too easy to either have like that victim mentality or to focus on the negatives
Yeah.
or, to kind of to wallow in our sorrows. Think like a monk. It talks about the principles of, modern monks and the practices that they work their whole lives for. Um, but it's about, focusing on clarity, being intentional, being mindful, and emotional control. I
Mm,
think emotional control that's a skill that takes some hard work. It's too easy to have something bad happen and negatively react to it,
yeah.
or to um, let that negativity manifest and
Yeah.
kind of wallow
Yeah.
in our heads and our hearts. Um,
It's a balancing act a little bit because we've got these feelings, they're indicators, and yet we can't let them run the show.
exactly.
Right. So I've heard it said one time that it's like you're driving the car and your feelings, they're not driving the car and they're not stuffed in the trunk.
Right.
They're like nicely buckled up.
Right in
Right,
the
like
front
I'm
seat
gonna
in the cup
see you, I'm
holder.
gonna hear you,
Yeah,
but again, you're not driving the show, right?
exactly.
I'm gonna understand and acknowledge because a lot of times they're pointing to something that needs some attention.
Right. And that's, one of the key lessons in Think Like a Monk is, mental clarity requires training. All of the things that we talk about and the things that we deal with in life, everything's a lesson, everything's a training session. And that kind of goes back to that growth mindset is um, it's okay to have a situation that you feel like definitely feel those emotions, definitely take those negatives, take your time to wallow in sorrow, but have that growth mindset, take that as a lesson and use that for whatever comes next.
Hmm.
Maybe the next time when, life throws an uppercut, I might duck out of the way, or,
Right,
I'm going to know how to kind of protect myself against it.
right.
I think like a monk, really helps shape the clarity and the mindset over, how we react to things. And one of the key takeaways from this book is, most people live reactively instead of intentionally.
Yeah,
And I think, we have to react,
sure.
but intentionally reacting is kind of the key on
Respond.
right. Don't um again, when something negative happens, it's easy to just be like, "Oh, woe is me." This is, of course, this happened again, or yeah, this is, should have saw that coming.
Yeah.
But again, being intentional with how we absorb those things that happen,
Yeah.
and then what we do with them. And
And if I can go back to your superpower of observation, because we're talking about the lessons that we're learning through the challenges that come our way. If it's a recurring uppercut, and I'm like, oh man, this one got me, before, and I'm getting the same, like it's taking me down again, then I'm the common denominator.
right,
What's the recurring lesson that's trying to be taught to me that I'm kind of having a hard time learning that lesson.
right.
And so if I can have that clarity of mind to look at it as a lesson opportunity
Mhm.
instead of just, oh, I'm down for the count.
Yeah. Well, and they say, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting different results.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
Mm-mm.
And so, like you said, life is definitely going to keep throwing,
Yeah,
jabs at us. How you duck and how you maneuver around it is how you're going to, change
that's
the
right.
situation, or change your response to the situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, as you just described that, I'm thinking of Karate Kid,
Yeah.
right? With
Yeah.
the wax on, the
Wax
wax
on, wax
off.
off.
And he's thinking it's just so rudimentary or the painting the fence. But then he starts being in an actual situation and the reps that he's done have prepared him to overcome.
Yes. Yeah, muscle memory kind of thing. That is a huge part of the military, going through training. When you're in the thick of it, you're like, why are we doing these dumb things?
Mm-hmm.
Why are we repeating these drills? Why are we doing these exercises? Why? This doesn't make sense. What This is grueling. This is intense. But kind of like in Karate Kid, like you said, then a situation arises and you don't have to react. You already have the skills and the things necessary to be able to handle the situation. And that's what military training is about. It's creating muscle memory to not have to think, but be able to react and react in the right way.
I was just picking it up when you were putting it down. Like I'm thinking, okay, I'm tracking with you, right? Your body has done the thing so many times. You don't have to use brain cells and calories in your mind to think about this. It gives you that ability to do that thing.
Yeah.
And now my brain can be available for anticipating the next thing.
Exactly. And I had been in situations in my tech career, but mostly in the military where, those repetitions are key. And maybe not in tech, people's lives aren't necessarily on the line. It doesn't mean that we don't support things that, um, help people's lives. But in the military, I've been in situations where you don't have time to think. It's somebody's life is on the line, and it's a matter of seconds between life or death. And so that's some of the things that I've carried throughout my military career, my professional career, and life in general. Is just uh, doing those exercises, and I don't mean like the physical exercises, but the repetitions of learning and doing to a point that you can just do, and you don't have to have a list. You don't have to have a checklist to go through things, and that you are able to I guess I kind of balance like being reactive and reacting, and I think there is a distinction between that. Like
Yeah.
reacting is doing the thing, being reactive is how you perceive the action that you're going to do. Um, yeah.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And can I say thank you for your service?
Oh, you can. Yes. Thank you for your support. I appreciate it.
I feel like as a civilian, we don't thank you guys enough. You guys have served, given. You just talked about being life or death moments. I've never, and I thank you.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. And I think we do get a good amount of support. And I think most military members kind of were like, "Oh, thank you for your support." It does mean a lot, though. I think in military service, there's kind of this stigma, like, oh, if you didn't deploy and do all the cool guy things, and you didn't really serve, and that's not true at all. I've met some of the most hardcore people that have done some things that we can't even fathom. And then I've met people that, put on the uniform and they're behind a desk, but every job in the military serves a purpose. And that's something that I've really prided myself on throughout my journey. Again, in the military and in my professional career is, treat the janitor and the CEO the same way, because just because you're the CEO of a company, obviously your responsibilities are different and greater, but it doesn't diminish what the janitor does. That person still serves a purpose.
Yeah.
And so, when you thank somebody for their service, I think some people kind of shy away from it, because they don't see the value of what they gave and what they've done. But I appreciate your support, and all those that do support our military, because it's a thankless job in that there's not a whole lot of reward to the things that you do. I mean, the reward may be that your buddy's still alive, and that's you can't put a price on that. But it's not like in a technical professional career where hey, here's your certificate for achievement, and it's not about that stuff. And I think again, taking those lessons and that mentality through life has been kind of paramount for me.
I've heard that it's challenging when folks leave the military to reintegrate.
It's very challenging.
I can only imagine, because you're laser focused on a mission and you come here and we're like, figure it out.
Yeah. I got out, so I did about 13 years total. 4 years were active duty. The rest were in the National Guard, which is, it's kind of like part-time. But that transition from active duty, because in a way you are like a robot. You were told what to wear, when to be there, how to do this, how to do that. It's really kind of, it's so templated and handed to you. Going back to the thinking and reacting, so much is laid out for you that you are kind of a robot and you do it. But I think the hardest part of transitioning out of the military for a lot of service members is that community is no longer there. You make some of the most lifelong, uh, best friendships that you'll ever have in the military, because you are thrust into these situations where it is life or death, and I have to be able to, you know, I count on you for my life, and you have to be able to count on me for your life because it really can be life or death. So you form these bonds, that you think are going to last forever. But with the military, people finish their contract and go. People get sent to different duty stations. So you make these friendships, and then it's just kind of poof. And after my military service, I definitely, I still struggle, with missing the good old days. I still struggle with the tempo and the pace of the civilian side of life compared to the military. Um, and post service, I've kind of dug myself into helping other veterans. I'm a part of several different veteran groups that take that theme of kind of rebuilding the community, giving veterans, a new sense of purpose, because that's a big thing too.
Mm.
Is your sense of purpose, your purpose there. You had a job, you had lives to be accountable for. You had this, you had that. It's much different than the civilian world. So a lot of veterans struggle with losing that sense of purpose that you had in the military, and that's one of the greatest challenges post military.
Purpose and definition of success.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
They go hand in hand, right? You're given the purpose, you're told how to do it. It is a linear, you said templated way of living and serving. And then you get out here and we're just like, figure it out.
Yeah. Here's your job, figure it out. And that's, I think most service members can use that kind of figure it out mentality. I don't want to say we're better at it, but we're more equipped to kind of figure it out because we think outside the box. We have that Semper Gumby, always flexible mentality. And not saying you have to be in the military to have that, but that's a key component that I think service members bring to the civilian world, to professional careers, is being able to navigate those challenges.
You get kind of baked into your DNA, and now that training
into your DNA, yeah, woven into your inner being.
Man, I have a neighbor who is a wife of a husband in the military. So she shared with me that every time they moved, the wives and the kids, okay. And everybody's like really quick to be like, I get it. We're in the same boat. And now, this is the day we do laundry, or this is the day we pick up the kids. But that kind of network that you learn how to connect.
You learn how to connect. And you brought up another good point of, the spouses and the children. They may not be the ones wearing the uniform, but talk about a thankless job. Your family, when I joined the military, one thing that always stuck with me is, my parents were naturally, a little apprehensive. And I thought they were disappointed in me by wanting to join the military. Absolutely not the truth. I remember them saying, uh, we don't necessarily support the decision. We support you because, now that my kids are getting older and, my boys are like, Daddy, I want to be in the Army when I grow up. Now I'm like beaming myself to where my parents were. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Your empathy muscle just grew a little bit there.
You're like, oh man, I don't know. I support you, buddy, but I don't know that I want you to do that.
Well, it was modeled well for you.
It was. And, so parents of service members, husbands, wives, children, they're again, not the ones wearing the uniform, but that life is not for the faint of heart. It's a tough life. You can, be called to go away for a long time, or, you build your life, at this duty station, and the next thing you know, you're going to another duty station, and it's not something that you didn't, you know, look at all the best places to live. You're just kind of thrown there, and like you said, there is that figure it out kind
Yeah.
of thing there.
My husband's dad served in the Air Force. And so a lot of his growing up years, he was in Germany.
Yeah.
So he's got stories which I just think are fascinating. But to your point, it comes with the package. So he's telling me about riding bicycles with his sister, through strawberry fields and big tulips, and the tulips that like dwarf our tulips.
Yeah.
And but that's his periphery experience of just kind of going where the job was. So his sister was born in Memphis, and he was born in Oklahoma. So their whole life, and they lived in New Mexico. Everything got shaped and colored because of the dad's service.
Yeah. I would say I'll call it fortunate enough that I got out of active duty when my oldest daughter was, only 6 months old. I know a lot of friends that, grew up military brats, and most of the time it's one of those things where, when you're living it, you're like, oh, this sucks. I hate this. But then as you grow up and you look back on your life, like the opportunities that you had or the experiences that you had in that life, it's not something that everyday people get to experience. And I always say, like, the military is some of the best times of my life and by far some of the worst times of my life. But um, for families and for kids, it's definitely challenging because you don't get to pick where you go or what environment you're in. And I wish I got to go to Germany and,
One of
and
my
bicycle through
I
strawberry
know. Well,
fields.
one of my favorite stories, in addition to the bicycling through those, as it sounds fun, was he talked about when rent was due at the first of the month. They were not allowed to just like drop by and give the check to the German landowner. No, 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 no. It was a whole day experience.
Okay.
The whole family came, had lunch, dinner, the meal, and just like communed with
Yeah.
the people, like
Yeah.
the owners of, and that's how they do life in Germany, like deep level intimacy. And I was like, wow.
Yeah.
That's just next level, like mind blowing for me.
Yeah. I actually I got to spend some time in Denmark, not with the military, but for some training for a job that I had. And I was blown away by the people there, the pace of life, the culture, that connection.
Mm.
I ended up becoming friends with one of the hotel staff because I was there by myself. I made that friendship there in Denmark. This was in 2017, so almost 10 years later. One of my longest standing friends at this point,
Wow.
because that culture is so much more about connection. And, I feel like here in the US, we're so focused on ourselves and whatever our mind is on at that time that you kind of pass by people and we miss that connection.
Yeah.
And so I
Yeah.
think connection is the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need it. We need it. Well, to that point, I hear a lot of conversations about it's challenging to grow friendships as an adult because as you're growing up, right, you're in the same class, you're in the same sports, you're in the school play, you're in the football team, you're in a group with people, and you're kind of doing the thing together. But then you go off to college, and then maybe then you've got some college years and some, I don't know, fraternities or clubs or something. But as an adult, you really spread out, and then you're doing your own thing. So again, as an adult, there's just a more intentional need to develop the connection.
Yeah, and that I couldn't put any better. Intentional need. Being intentional about it it's too easy to just go about our day, head down, doing whatever we're supposed to be doing, and just think about the opportunities that you miss just to, like like us, we were doing business, and we took that opportunity to connect and just have a candid conversation about life. And
Yeah.
fast forward, here we are. But I think being intentional, especially as an adult, which it's not fun. Being an adult sucks.
I know.
But yeah, building your circle, it's not as easy. We don't have recess to go play with our friends.
Summer camp.
Yeah, you have to, and with all the hustle and bustle of work hours and kid duties and this and that, and the laundry list of things that we have to do, and then you're like, oh man, number 13, like go talk to people. Like, I don't want to do that.
We are so transactional and getting things done. By the end, we're tired.
We're burnt out.
I just want to, but maybe that was the beauty of the olden days when they sat on the porch with a glass tea.
You know, it's one of
sweet tea, porch sitting.
I have my friends kind of joke. I picked up these old rocking chairs from Cracker Barrel that I got for free, and I was like, I've got a porch.
Yeah,
those should go there. And
yeah,
that's kind of, it's, you know, one of those things. Being in IT, I stare at a screen all day, and then it's too easy to get home and stare at our tiny screen, you know, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. I love French port sitting. And so I got my 2 little rocking chairs out there, and you know, I love just looking up at the skies and just kind of breathing for a little bit. And burnout is too common, too prominent in all of our lives. And I think back to being intentional, we have to intentionally take a break from all the daily monotony.
Right.
That's why I got my rocking chair.
Game on, sir. Life to the rocking chair.
Yeah.
And this is the season of life, right? I've heard it said that when you're a young child, you're happy. You haven't figured out the woes yet. But then you go through this, oh man, I'm figuring out adulting. And it's the grind, because then you get to retire at the end, and maybe people get to do more front porch sitting. But this moment right here, this season of our life, it's rough. So we do have to be intentional.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know that I'll ever be able to retire. I sure hope so. But I think something that I think is really sad to see, and again, because we're so much in the grind, time flies by. You know, that's the goal. Work towards retiring. But then it's like, we're in our prime now.
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't want to be 65, 70.
And then
I'm like, oh, I get to live life now. But now when I get out of bed, you know, everything already hurts now. But, you know, like, you're right. Like, now is the time. And that's another thing we need to be intentional about is living our life.
Yeah.
You know, we have to work to live, but like, let's live a little more.
Yeah. Well, the paradox. So you talked about Adam Grant. So Adam Grant and Brene Brown have a podcast out right now called The Curiosity Shop.
Okay.
And so I'm a big fan. And so this week they were talking about the paradox. And I just feel like you said earlier, the best of times, the worst of times.
Yeah.
So you talked about that regarding your military experience, but here we are right now in the grind of it. And how can we apply, you know, as your superpower of observation, that lesson to right here, right now? It is a grind. It is transactional. I am tired, and we're going to do this thing.
Yeah.
So, like, props, we're doing the thing.
We're doing the thing.
Making that connection.
You know, sometimes you got to do things tired.
Yeah.
But that goes back to that grit. You know, it's too easy to not do something because we're tired or because we're busy. But yeah, just having that ability to kind of push yourself just a little bit more. Like, you never know what's just on the outside of the, you know, your comfort zone. Or you know, I have so many things to do. I can't add one more, but maybe that one more thing is, you know, that
you never know,
living life moment.
That's right. I know. I was thinking about, because in my personal business, I've got the word summit in it. And I just feel so drawn to the concept of the summit, where you live your life at this kind of entry level. You're figuring it out. When the curveballs come, what are you going to do about it? If you say yes to learning, you can either grow bitter or better. If you say yes and you grow, you keep getting that next level and the invitation to more challenge, more awesomeness. And sometimes there's a false peak and you think you made it, but wait, there's more.
There's always more. I love thinking like about that and thinking about like a summit. You know, and I've heard before, like if you set a goal, like the journey isn't, or the, I can't remember how it goes, but you know,
it's not about the destination.
It's not about the destination. It's about the journey. And take that literally, you know, like don't put the blinders on when you're trying to achieve something, because you never know what opportunity exists, you know, as you're working towards something. And I mean, you can take it literally of climbing a mountain. Like, yeah, when you get to the top, the views are going to be amazing, but like, slow it down a bit. Like, look what's around you, take that in, take the climb in. And that can be, you know, cover any facet of life, really.
I love it. Wisdom right there. Brandon Glaser. What else do you have on your list, sir?
So I don't want to make this all about the military, but some of the really good books that I've read and really post-military career, or in the middle of my military career, um, are books. So one, Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin, and then kind of follow on to that is the Dichotomy of Leadership, also by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. They're two former Navy SEALs that lived that military life, faced all the adversities, but they break down how in the military, taking some of those things that we do and applying it to non-military things. So just because it's Navy SEALs and talks a lot about military experience, these are great books for anybody. You don't have to be in a leadership position, but they really talk about how we interact with people, kind of going back to like empathy, seeing people where they are. Um, in Extreme Ownership, radical accountability. I think it's too easy to not take accountability for things. As a leader in IT or a leader in the military, taking that extreme ownership, whether it's a success or failure, uh, really goes a long way. It helps build your character. And if you're leading a team, your subordinates are going to look at that and celebrate the wins, absolutely, but don't dismiss the failures. Take those as lessons. um,
It seems like, if I can speculate, tell me if this matches your experience, it takes time. It takes
Absolutely.
time to say, I'm going to bring accountability into my workspace.
Mhm.
And it's easy, just like you talked about earlier, to not. It's
Yeah.
easy.
Oh, it's
Just
easy.
react. Just do the thing. Okay, fine. That was a good, that was a bad, move on. But to stop, to check in, to define what does accountability look like for me and for you and our team,
Yeah.
like taking the time, it's kind of counterculture, would you say?
I would definitely say that, and I feel like I'm going to say we did not script this part. What you just said leads perfectly into a line from the book, and it's leadership is rarely black and white. The challenge is knowing when to push and when to pull back. And I think that's kind of a key lesson. You can't hard charge everything. You know when to, or you have to know when to use humility sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, kind of like we said, life is going to throw those punches. How we react is there's a time and a place for how you react.
Yeah.
And that's one of the dichotomy of leadership. Talks about balance, balance over extremism, humility versus confidence. There's a time and a place to be confident. There's a time and a place to be humble.
Yep.
And knowing that distinction is really important.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to say that's wisdom right there. In the book of Ecclesiastes, in the Old Testament, the Bible, they say there is a season for all things. There is a season to plant and a season to pull and a season to mourn and a season but to know when is the right moment. And that's the lesson of wisdom that we apply to life.
Yeah. Yeah. Knowing when, and that's, uh, we don't know everything. And
No, we do not.
if you do, you're probably wrong.
Yeah, you need to sit down.
And they say like, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
There you go.
And I think that kind of goes to the growth mindset too.
Mhm.
Put yourself where there's going to be smarter people.
There
Put
you go.
yourself in a place where people are going to work harder.
Challenge you, stretch you.
Challenge. Yeah. Like, even when you're working out with somebody, like, oh man, they got 5 pounds more than me. Like, now I'm going to push myself.
There you go. That positive peer pressure.
Positive peer pressure. Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy what life will throw at us sometimes.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Well, I appreciate that. What else do you have?
Another book. I swear you would think we scripted this. This is another good one. The Comfort Crisis by Michael Easter. The kind of synopsis for this book is, it argues that modern life has become too comfortable and that intentional discomfort builds resilience, perspective, and fulfillment. again, going back to, we kind of put the blinders on, and we don't, we look at the summit as the goal, and not the journey. We, as humans, we need challenge. Sometimes it would be nice to be like, all right, enough challenges, life. Like, I've had my I've had my share. But modern modern com- modern comfort, is, it's too easy to kind of fall into that. And with technology, the amount of information that we're able to consume in an hour
Mhm.
far supersedes, even as kids for us.
Sure.
We're just getting all of this information. It's too easy to go to Google or Chat GPT to get the answer to something. And so those are some of those modern comforts that we use to overcome challenges, but we should never fear the challenge.
That's right.
And I think challenge is key to growing, to learning, to doing. And like you said, it takes time to kind of build those muscle memory type things. But comfort can become a trap.
Sure.
And you should, it's okay to sit in the comfort chair for a little bit, but don't be afraid to get up and do the hard thing.
And to your point of growth mindset, I mean, there's just something that happens in your mind when you choose to be a person who says, this is hard, I'm going to do it anyway. And like, that's the finish line. And like, I remember being in middle school and we're running that mile and the coach is there with her whistle telling us to sprint on that last bit. And I was like, bro, I am tired. What are these words coming out of your mouth? I could not pick up what she was putting down. And then after a while, she says it loud enough and she's got that whistle and everybody else starts doing it. And I'm like, oh, there's something like still in this body of mine, still in this mind, that if I can overcome my own mind that says I can't anymore, lo and behold, I just did that.
Yeah.
So, but to have that shift of I can't, and not only I can, but I will.
Yeah. Man, talk about like being comfortable. I can't chill. I can't relax. That's definitely one of my pitfalls. And it gets exhausting because I'm always looking for that next challenge, or what's next. But yeah, I wish I knew how to be a little bit more comfortable in being comfortable, because me personally, I thrive on challenge. I get bored too easily. And so, as soon as I achieve one thing, I should maybe let the dust settle a little bit and just kind of,
that might be why you got those rocking chairs.
Well, and that's, again, being intentional. I know I can't chill, so I have to, I have to be intentional with
some rocking chair time.
Getting my front porch rocking in. And people are different. Some people are content with what they have, where they are, and there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes I wish I could live by that a little bit more. It would be way less exhausting.
But you're doing the thing, and you're doing your challenges and adventures, and you're an inspiration. So I say keep on.
I don't know if I'd say that, but I appreciate that.
For sure. You certainly are.
Thank you, man. Yeah, I mean, again, like some of the books that I talked about, those are, I think I covered most of them. But taking lessons away, and it's everything in life, whether it's reading or doing a task at work or hanging out with your friends, there's always a lesson to be learned. And I'm personally always kind of looking for the lesson, even in the hardest of times. It's too easy to say, why me? Why is this happening to me? But we have to look at the silver lining. There's a lesson in everything that we do, and how if we're able to articulate it, pull it away from that hard thing, how can we apply it going forward? That's kind of like the common theme across the books that I like, the books that I've talked about, is, like we said, life is a boxing match. There's, I think it was Rocky that said, it's not about how hard you can hit, it's about how hard you can get hit and keep going. And that's, I love that line, because, I've been hit pretty hard a couple times, more times than I'd like, but, you got to get back up, you got to keep going, be intentional. and live life.
I like to think sometimes, who knows, right, how long we're going to get to be on Earth. But just for conversational purposes, let's say we get to live to be 100.
Yeah.
Because, some people are living to be 100. If that is the number that we are on this lovely Earth, then I'm just barely kind of at the halfway mark almost, right?
Yeah.
And if this is like schoolhouse Earth is teaching us our lessons, how many more lessons are in my future? Game on,
infinite.
Game on. So everything you've said, just to distill it down, is like, when life happens at us, to us, we're going through it, we have a choice of what we're going to do with it. Exactly. And I've heard you through all this conversation just kind of say, I'm going to take that, I'm going to internalize the good, I'm going to let go of what's not serving me or working for me, and what's next.
Yeah, absolutely. What's next? And man, it is kind of crazy to think that, if we live to 100, that's all. I haven't even hit that halfway point. It's kind of exciting and kind of exhausting to think. You're like, oh man,
that's okay. You have rocking chairs.
I have rocking chairs. I'm prepared. I'm taking volunteers.
Maybe
to push
you should
me
get a
in
hammock.
Wheelchair at some
Maybe you should
point,
get a hammock next, sir.
I do have a hammock. I need to use that a little bit.
There you go. You got your respite.
But yeah, I mean, to think about how much more life there is, even right now, how much life there is in a day. It's too easy to get caught up in the I got to work 8 to 6 or whatever your hours are, and we are so focused on that, and it's like, yeah, but there's time after that, there's time before it. Like, use your time wisely. And thinking about that, man, living to 100 is wild, but we hit different stages in life, as a young kid, or I look at like my daughter now going from elementary school to middle school. It's a different phase, a different stage in life. And us as full grown adults, we still hit these different stages, and it can happen multiple times in 1 year, or it can, you kind of, just because you hit 50 doesn't necessarily mean it's a new stage. But taking what life is throwing at you in those different stages, you're going to be at different levels of maturity, and how you handle things, and how something that 10 years ago you would have been like, oh, it might be something now that you look forward to. And so I think that's really kind of interesting and neat to think about, like, how will I be when I'm 70 or 90 or 100?
And what we do in our day-to-day decisions and how we treat our bodies impacts how we'll get to show up in our 70s, right?
Absolutely. I through one of the organizations that we had a veteran just turn 101. And I'm a big history buff too, and I just think about all of the life that person has lived, all of the things that they have seen and done, even in like my lifetime, the amount of change that has occurred, between me being a 5-year-old and me being the age I am now. But you said it too. What we do now absolutely impacts what we do tomorrow. And we have to take care of our bodies. I think, in talking to this gentleman, he said, just keep moving, just keep walking. Cause he's 101. Like, that's, I'm achy and painy right now, and I'm far from that. But, he said, I just walk and I move. And that's something that, like, for me, my chill, like I said, I can't chill, but my chill is movement. And I like to, when things are hard and life is tough, I just go on a walk. And so I'm kind of like, that's what I'm doing in the now to handle the things now. But hopefully, if I make it to 101, those walks will help keep me going.
Yeah. Well, you're resetting yourself in nature, right? The biometrics syncs up with the tempo that's in nature. So even though you're not sitting still, you're recharging and you're refreshing and you're renewing.
Yeah. Putting down those screens.
That's right.
There's so much, I know not everybody loves nature. I love nature. I love, the wind, the sun on my body, the fresh air. And I think I think in today's fast-paced world, again with all the technology and all the screens and information, it's a nice reset to just
Indeed.
kind of escape, and it could be in your own backyard, but just sit there and
I have a friend who says, "Oh, I'm so granola. I just like to take off my shoes and walk in the grass and get grounded." And I'm like, I'm digging that.
granola. Okay, I like it. Yeah.
Austinite. I want to be granola.
I want to. Yeah.
Come and go there.
Well, I mean, yeah, and I think we we kind of have lost connection with like the natural
Yeah.
world. If you think about it, you get up in the morning, you put your feet on your carpet, you put your feet in your shoes, you're walking around.
Yeah. We insulate ourselves.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
We go sit in our little office with
The air condition,
the lights on,
the fluorescent
and
lights,
stuff.
blue screen.
Yeah, and then
blue light screen.
Yeah, you feel like a little hobbit sometimes coming
And
out.
we can, and our whole right, and then you make it from the air conditioned building to your air conditioned car, and you're like,
yeah,
right.
But yeah, and that's why I like to just I hate being in a room with. I like being here right now. But I hate being in a room with like lights on me.
No, but we gotta plug back into nature. I mean, it's good for our soul. I agree.
Absolutely good for the soul.
So Brandon, we have had a beautiful and lovely chat, and I would just like to round out our time together and say, is there any like project you keep talking about, these things that kind of pique your interest and invite you to the next challenge and chapter? Is there anything else you're kind of working on right now that you'd like to share with?
Absolutely. This will be my last military thing.
Bring it.
So I, like I said, I have really dedicated my time, my energy into other veterans. I believe helping others helps us. I'm on the board of directors for a veteran nonprofit that helps provide resources to veterans and their families. It helps, build that community, because there's a lot of resources out there for veterans and their families, but there isn't a templated guide on I have this need, how do I get this thing? So being on that board, Heroes Resource Center, I'll give them a shout out. It's a great organization with a great mission, provides a lot of purpose to veterans. One of my favorite organizations that I'm a part of and I'm looking forward to coming up is the Strong Point Dinert Ranch. It is it's a type of retreat for veterans and Gold Star families, or people that have had a son or a daughter that have passed in the line of duty. I'm a retreat facilitator for this organization, and so we take groups of veterans out to the mountains of New Mexico on this 1,100-acre former cattle ranch, out in nature, away from the hustle and bustle of life. There are some. It's not therapy, but it's therapeutic.
Oh yeah.
There are very guided, intentional activities that we do. One to kind of bring people back together, to kind of reknit that community. But again, it's like a reset. It's stepping away from all of the things that are happening here and now in life. It's kind of like a vacation, from reality. So I'm looking forward to leading a retreat in August. I started as a participant. I carried a lot of heavy things with me from my military service. Being involved in a military accident. Some of the challenges that I faced. So I got involved as a participant in this organization. Went on a retreat. One of the things that we do or we talk about there is being in this beautiful landscape with the mountains. Take that hard thing, that dark thing, and leave it out there. Intentionally leave it out there. Give it to Mother Nature. She can handle it. Unpack it from your head or your heart. And it was a wild concept to me, but I really focused on why carry some of those things with me? Why not just set them down? And that's kind of the premise of like what this organization, this retreat does is gets you out there, builds up your comfort in being vulnerable and putting some of those things down, having a good time, meeting some new friends, doing some some guided activities, but reframing how you think, how you react, and then going back to life. And so I'm looking very much forward to. I think this will be the third retreat that I facilitated, and I keep going not because it doesn't work, but because it does. And
Wow.
so again, helping veterans has really helped me in my own life and my goals and my aspirations.
That's beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
I'm I'm inspired by that, and my heart feels full learning that community and for connection is there. And I just feel like the call that's on all of our lives as a human is, we're born, we've got these skill sets. What am I going to do? How am I going to navigate life? And then what am I going to do when I see the pain points and the challenges? What am I going to do about that? And I feel like the answer is I'm going to invest myself, my time, my energy, and I'm going to help kind of close the gap
Yeah.
by who I am and what I can bring to the table. And that's what you're doing. You're bridging the gap of the pain that you've seen, that you've lived, the folks that might still be there, and you're making a way
Yeah.
to close that gap.
I think it's so important to, kind of like you said, like, what are you passionate about? And let that lead you into what you do.
Mhm.
I I work in IT. I wouldn't say I'm passionate about IT, but I'm passionate about people. And I've
Connecting.
connecting. I've bridged that gap between, IT and business and people. And one of my greatest pleasures is not only just helping veterans, but leading teams in IT. I think it's so important to have empathy and um, to be a part of a team of people trying to achieve something together. And that's, again, my passion. Excuse me. My passion is people. My passion is taking the lessons that I've learned and helping others with whatever it is, if it's work life or personal life or military stuff, whatever. I love people.
You're doing the thing. I want to be a little bit dorky. Did you see Deadpool and Wolverine?
I did, yes. I love that.
Spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't seen it. So if you haven't seen it and you want to, zippity doo dah past this moment, but at the end of the movie, the moment that saves the day is when Deadpool and Wolverine reach across the aisle
Yeah.
and they connect and they make a circuit between these two humans. And I'm like, a circuit just saved the day.
Yeah.
Bruh, it's getting real up in here.
I love that. I love, God, that's such a good movie, actually. And it's true, but yeah, I mean, you never know the impact that you might have on somebody else's life through a simple conversation, or just having a little bit of seeing them where they are.
Yeah.
It's too easy to expect people to be where we want them to be, but like we said, life will life, and we may not always be at 100%. If 60% is all you can give that day, well, it's 100% of what you can give.
There you go.
But making those connections, I think, are so important to just living life and succeeding
Living
at
it
whatever you're doing.
effectively.
Yeah.
I'm living my life. I am a plant and I'm flourishing.
You are a plant.
We're flourishing in the right space.
You're in the right environment, and that
There
is
we
the
go.
key.
There we go.
You're doing big, amazing things, and I'm happy to be a part of the journey.
I'm glad that you took some time to say yes to the stretching opportunity of being on your first podcast. I've had a lovely chat.
I've had an amazing chat. I seriously thank you for this opportunity. Yeah. I'm so excited for you. I'm excited to be your friend and be a part of this journey, but to really see where you're going to go and where you're going to blossom.
Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you, Angie.
And we say thank you all for listening, how this conversation has unfolded. We hope that we've given you not only some books to check out, but some inspiration to take with you as you make your way through your next chapter in life. Have a blessed and beautiful day.